Sup? So today I just really felt like talking about no self again. It's just such a cool concept, a cool teaching, and I just like talking about it, you know. It's fun. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of with you guys, whoever's watching, to just go over whatever arises about no self, and maybe clear up some misconceptions if that's something I want to talk about. We'll see. But this is a topic that I've spent a lot of time on. Also, just something that really fascinates me, interests me. Something that can definitely be noticed directly if you just know how to look. And yeah, I just want to point it out as much as I can and clear up any misconceptions about it. So, the self, right? Everybody has this, not everybody, but a lot of people, most people have this idea, right, that they're some sort of separate watcher entity. Maybe the body, maybe the mind, maybe just whoever's looking. But they sort of feel like they're their own thing, right? Like they have their own self-existence, and there's them, and then there's the world, and other people, and other me's, other selves, others. And it can appear like that. Definitely can appear like that. A second. My sword got stuck. Anyways, it can appear like that. Especially with how language works, and all these ideas we have conditioned since childhood and in our culture. And it's just something that is widely talked about within many religions and spiritual traditions. Well, they sort of talk about transcending the ego, but that's just words. No self specifically is, well, originally mostly talked about in Buddhism, right? The Buddha talked about no self. But those are just people who notice something, right? It's not like they made it up, or they did create the concept, but it's not like something you can't notice for yourself, right? No self, notice for yourself. That's a funny way of saying it, but it's not something you can't notice, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's actually surprisingly simple to notice. Problems noticing this only arise, when the mind, with its ideas, concepts, conditioning, sort of tries to analyze it. I guess it's just clinging to old ideas, being sort of closed off towards this idea of no self, or even being scared a little bit. Fear is stopping a lot of people from really seeing it. And some even want to see it, but can't, because they sort of are as as someone they're trying to find that they're no one. Does that make sense? And yeah, I'm just gonna try. See, this was a long intro. What the hell is flying next to me? Some bugs. But I'm just gonna try to point it out and talk about it and use some of the Buddha's help. He had some helpful ways of explaining it. Just go over some of the ways the Buddha explained it, how I see it, and see if maybe, if anyone's curious, if anyone maybe has trouble seeing this, maybe it'll help someone see this. Because I'm not gonna be like explaining it, I'm more so gonna be pointing out things you can notice in your experience that might spark some insight. Yeah, I'm speaking slowly because I don't want to just say a bunch of nonsense, even though anything you try to say about it too much is sort of nonsense. So it's hard to talk about these things. But I just like talking about them. But like, I'm gonna borrow some help from the Buddha here. Because he just had a really cool way of explaining it. I'm gonna go in my own pointers after, but like, you know, some people have this image, there's a soul. Some people like, they just like, I'm me, and have this idea about themselves, right? But the Buddha was a little more surgical with it. So he created the concept of the 5 aggregates, right? And he basically split the human person, what we are, into these 5 constituent parts, right? And those parts make sense. When I explain them, they'll make sense. You won't be able to really argue against them. But then he went and took each of these parts that he conceptually split the human person into, and he sort of pointed out how these parts have no self-existence, right? That may sound confusing, I'm gonna get more into it, but yeah. So he split the person into the 5 aggregates, right? So let me try to remember them now. But it was sort of like feeling, mental formations, form, consciousness, and what else was it? Perception. Okay, yeah. Feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness, and form. Or it could go in a circle like form, feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness. So basically, this sort of makes up the person, right? You got form, you got your body, your eyes, just your form and other forms right outside, just form in general. Then you have feeling, so your senses, you sense things, you can feel, you can touch, you can taste, smell, hear, notice thoughts. Then you have perception, so that's sort of like, oh, I taste this fruit and I perceive it as sweet or good or bad or whatever, right? You perceive it as something. And then you have mental formations, which are like thoughts, feelings, like maybe I taste something, it tastes good, it makes me feel pleasant or unpleasant, or makes me feel a certain way, makes me think of something, like a thought, a mental formation, makes me imagine something, like mental images, right? Sort of these mental formations. And consciousness, then you're like, there's like this knowing of the perceptions of feeling of forms, right? So it goes like in a loop. There's form, there's feeling of form, or sensation, sensing form. There's a perception of the feeling. It causes a sort of mental formation, like a thought, an emotion, even choices, whatever, a response, a reaction. And we're conscious of that, right? We're even conscious. Our body is a form that we feel and we perceive a certain way, and we have certain feelings, thoughts, ideas about it, and we're conscious of that. So that's how he split the human person into these 5 aggregates. Damn, I had to really dig that up. Haven't thought about the 5 aggregates in a while. But so you have these 5 aggregates, right? And now let's take a look at each of them separately, right? Does this make sense that this is sort of like how you function? This is just a conceptual framework. It's not absolutely true. But can you see that this is basically how you function? Like, before we delve into the no self, let's just establish that like the 5 aggregates is a pretty good representation of a human person. Because like, what else is our existence other than a bunch of sensations that we perceive a certain way that cause certain mental phenomena that we're conscious of? Is there anything else to your experience, really? Like, you may say, oh, I have feelings, mental formations. Oh, I have a body form. Oh, I have memories, mental formations. Oh, everything can be sort of dissected into the 5 aggregates. Like, can you see that? I maybe pause for a second, like go over a bunch of examples that you might have any objections to. Relate them to the 5 aggregates and see that they can sort of be represented by the 5 aggregates, right? So now let's look at them each separately. Let's start with feeling, right? Can you influence or control what or how you're feeling? So like, can you stop hearing? Like, yeah, you can block your ears, but can you choose to stop hearing? Can you choose to stop seeing? Yeah, you can close your eyes, but you're seeing the back of your eyelids. Can you choose not to feel pain? When I'm in the forest right now, I'm hearing birds, I'm seeing all this green stuff. I'm seeing myself here in the camera. Can I choose? Like, I can look away, but I'm still seeing something. Can I choose? Can I fully control? Like, someone abducts me and tortures me. That's a fucked up example, but like, can I choose not to feel the pain? Like, you can't really choose. You can sort of like kind of influence it, but we'll get into that later, how you're not actually even influencing it. But you can't really control or choose feelings. You can't choose how you taste something, how you see something, how you perceive anything, right? How you sense anything. So you don't have any control over them. So there's no center. Like, we're talking about a self here. No self, no center, no controller of your sensing, of your sensations, right? So that's not self. So your sensations are not self. What you experience is not self. It's just outside of control, just happening, right? So we go to perception, right? Perception. Did you choose how you perceive things? Hear me out. When you tried vanilla ice cream and you liked it, did you choose to like it? Or did you just like it? And then we have a lot of conditioned perceptions. Like, we can say our parents told us something's bad, and then when we sense it, we perceive it as bad. Let me try to give an example. Like, my mind always jumps to the most not YouTube friendly examples. I can't say these things, but let me just sit for a second. Like, let's say you were a kid and your parents told you, oh, this band is bad, and now and that stuck with you because someone told you that. And then when you hear this band, you don't see it how it is. You sort of perceive it in a more negative way because you were told it's bad. Does that make sense? Like, we have a lot of conditioned perceptions, right? We're told something's a certain way, or even we have an experience and we relate that experience to our memory, and that conditions the way we experience that thing. So through conditioning, through things that happen to us, things we were told, our perception becomes sort of conditioned. And all of that conditioning comes from outside. If you see, like, whatever you experienced, you couldn't really control it, especially when you were a kid, and that shaped how you experienced the world forever, how you perceive it after that, right? So even if you feel like you're sort of choosing how you perceive things, you didn't choose how you started and how that evolved, and all of that came from the experience. So from sensing came perceiving because of certain things you sensed, right? Certain things you experienced. So you can't really choose your perceptions. There's no controller, no center of perception, no self. There's no control, and they're conditioned by other things. Even the same as sensing, you can't control it, and it depends on whatever's happening. Same as perceiving, you can't control it, and depends on how you were conditioned, how you were brought up, your memories, how society functions, everything but a self, right? You're not, you know what I mean? It's not like you choose how to see things. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope that makes sense. Then you have mental formation. So due to perceiving things in a certain way, right, we have certain thoughts, certain feelings, and that causes us to have certain choices, right? Let's say, I'll give a reasonable example, but your parents told you strangers are bad, stranger danger, right? And then a stranger tries to offer you candy. You sense the stranger, he just approaches. You perceive him as, due to the conditioning, as danger. And then you have thoughts, oh, I have to get away. So you didn't control that thought. It came from the perception, the conditioned perception, which was conditioned by previous thoughts and experience. It's all connected. It's not like it's not connected, right? It's happening at once, or like separately, or like in a loop, or like, don't get too caught up on that. But do you see how your thoughts are conditioned by perception? So the way you see something is how you think about it, right? If your perception is, oh, I don't like this piece of cheese, then you're gonna have a thought this piece of cheese is bad. So you perceive it as pleasant or unpleasant. And then you have a thought, this is nice, this is bad. Or maybe more detailed, this is nasty, or this tastes like, then you relate it to something you were conditioned to think about, this tastes like poop, or like, you know what I'm saying? So you can't control your thoughts. Your thoughts just your mental formations, your feelings, your thoughts, your choices. If you really look at it, they sort of just appear instantly out of nothing. Even right now when I'm speaking, like, that's the only way I can point at this, but it's not like I'm planning what to say. It's not like I know what I'm gonna say, and it's completely conditioned by bouncing off of the things I'm already saying, by the things I've read, by the conditioning I've already had, by my own seeing, by whatever. So I have no control of what I'm gonna say, I just say it, and it sort of sometimes seems logical, or seems to make sense, or points at something. You can see it if you wanna. I hope you can see what I'm pointing at. But if you can see that, like, these thoughts, these words I'm saying, and the thoughts you're having, and like, if you think of a response to what I'm saying, like maybe you understand it, maybe it triggers you, whatever, can you see that me saying something caused you to think that because you perceived what I said in a certain way? So it's not like you chose to think that, right? You just thought that. No controller, no one could choose what to think. The thoughts just appeared, flowing out of the moment, like what you saw me say something, maybe you saw a thought to something I said, and then you had a further thought, or maybe you got distracted, looked at something else. You know what I mean? You didn't choose to think that. There's no controller, no self, right? No one behind the thoughts. Just like a sequence of sensing, perceiving, thoughts arise. No one to claim them. No one to control it. My hand's getting shaky. Goddamn, my hands are tired. No one to control it. No self. And it's conditioned by other things, of course. So not only is it there's no controller, it's all interconnected. Like, my thought caused your thought, caused another thought, caused a certain feeling, caused a certain insight, whatever. Like, let's say, oh, you feel thirsty and then you think, I gotta drink. I gotta go get something to drink. Oh, I wanna drink this. Oh, I remember this tasted good. I gotta drink this. Did you see? There's no one doing this. It's just happening. It's pretty fascinating. But you can see it. You can see it. Trust me. Just look. Just look. Don't try to analyze what I'm saying, because I'm not saying anything. I'm pointing. Like that tree. I point to it. Then you see it. My hands are relevant when you see it. I'm pointing. So see it. Don't think about it. Like, you don't have to understand what I'm saying. You don't have to prove me right or wrong. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. All I want for you to do is to drop the conclusions. Don't analyze what I'm saying. Give me a chance and just take a look at what I'm saying, if it's true, if you can see it for yourself. Okay? And then we have, of course, consciousness. So consciousness is just the knowing of what's happening. And of course, the knowing of what's happening is conditioned by what's happening. Because think about it. See, I'm not talking consciousness like awareness. Like, the fact that I'm a human means I'm only conscious of sight, sound, smells, thoughts, right? Like a bat that's blind is not conscious of sights, right? So his consciousness is different from mine just by the fact that he's conscious of different things. I'm not talking consciousness like the awareness of it, of consciousness. I'm separating the two. I'm talking about the conditioned consciousness that, like, the human experience has a human sort of conscious experience, and it's also conditioned by your past and your memories, but you sort of can't have the experience of being a cat while you're human. So your consciousness is conditioned by your genes, by you being a human, by your memories, by your past. No self, no one that's conscious, just pure consciousness that's conditioned by everything else, interconnected. Form, feeling, perception, formation, consciousness. It's all connected. It all originates from each other, goes in a loop, keeps happening, and that's the human person. But there's no self there. No self. No self there. No controller. It happens due to conditions, and it's all interconnected. But there's no controller there, is there? You can see this. Like, you might think, oh, but he's speaking, but there's just words arising. I don't know how to explain this, because there's no one explaining this. I don't know how to explain that no one's talking right now, that there's just words happening because of conditions, because there was a thought I should want to talk about no self, and that thought led to me walking to the forest and talking about this. Like, I'm using language as a convention when I say me and I walked, it's a convention. It's like, it's a useful way to communicate what's happening. And it doesn't matter. No self is not a problem. It's not like, oh, you disappear. Like, how would you disappear if you never existed as a self? As a self. I'm not saying this body doesn't exist. I'm not saying these thoughts don't exist, these memories, these experiences. I'm not saying none of that. Merry Xmas, by the way. I'm not saying none of that. But I'm saying that if you examine experience closely, and the 5 aggregates are a cool invention to examine experience in a certain way, that if you look, you can't directly find a controller, someone that's doing it. It's just happening, and that's fine. That's okay. A tree just grows, the wind just blows, the river just flows, the birds be just chirping, and you just be humaning, man. And it's fine. It's fine. You're not losing anything. You're not losing your personality, your experience, your past, okay? You're just acknowledging that if you look closely at experience, there's no one there. There is no one there, right? It's like, just look, please. Drop the assumptions. Who cares? Like, some people are like, oh, he's too young. He can't have any life experience. Who cares about that? Can you just drop all of that nonsense and just listen to what a random dude on the internet is saying? Stay open, because sometimes some pointer's just gonna pop out of nowhere, and if you're filled with ideas and concepts and prejudices, you're gonna miss it. Don't miss it. Especially when someone's spoon-feeding you this so slowly. You can see it, man. And let's get more now into the, basically my point is, if you look at experience, it's just spontaneously happening. Even when you choose to think, when you choose to do something, that choice happened out of nothing due to conditions. It's all an interconnected thing. You're part of the whole movement of things, and there's no actual self or controller or center or person or soul or something that's doing you that is specifically you. Just a bunch of interconnected things that ultimately we're not getting into that. I'm using this framework right now, the 5 aggregates. But just a bunch of interconnected things that influence each other and arise dependently at the same time, depending on each other, causes and conditions. No self. Just there's no self. Just see it. If you really look at your experience, just sit there. Even when you're analyzing, can there be knowing that the analyzing is just happening and you can't even stop it? See, that's why meditation's cool and useful sometimes. Because you sit there and you can't stop thinking. You're like, why can't I stop thinking, when the thought, why can't I stop thinking, is just another thought. Which is pretty funny, right? Because who's this you that's trying to stop thinking? See, that changes everything, because if there's no self and you're trying to fix yourself, who's trying to fix what? Or is that just a thought, right? You don't see, there's no self and you had a traumatic past. Who did it happen to? See, maybe the whole idea the past is traumatic is because we keep replaying it in our minds as if it happened to somebody, and we there's identification with it, and it causes us pain and suffering. But if there was no self, then it's just another thing that happened, just like a tree burns sometimes. I'm not trying to make this fucked up, or I'm not trying to deny anyone's bad experiences. I'm sorry if something bad happened to you, but you can be free from it. You can let go. Right now, nothing. Usually, if you just look at the moment, what's happening, just take a deep breath. The breath is always there in the moment. It's not in the past, it's in the moment. And just rest as whatever you are right now. Not trying to be anything, be someone, go anywhere. Just rest with the moment. Let the moment be enough. And just pay attention to thoughts, feelings, perceptions. You see how it's just happening and there's no one controlling it. And you slowly dissolve into that seeing, and there's nobody left. But yet things still happen, thoughts still happen, action still happens. You still have your passions. Everything's still okay. But just a lot of the unnecessary weight goes away. And I'm not gonna... See, I wanna... Oh my god, this sword. Okay, I guess I just squat. But, see, a lot of people are like, oh, no self, I don't exist. That's really nihilistic. Nothing matters. Do you still take actions? Are there still thoughts? Is there still seeing? It's just a part of the process, Eventually you see there's no self, and that influences how things happen, how thoughts form, how actions are taken. Like I talked about in my video, like imagine you're a sword fighter like Miyamoto Musashi. Why was he unbeatable? Not because of skill. He was incredibly skilled with the sword, I'm sure of that, but so were his opponents. It's because he didn't have a sword style. See, that's like self, no self, sword style, no sword style. If you have a sword technique, it has definite movement patterns, it has definite weaknesses, and it's predictable. But he didn't have a sword technique, so he had no predictable patterns and no weaknesses, and he could strike at you from any angle. Then a lot of people see they have to think about their sword technique, or maybe it's muscle memory, but a lot of people think how to do it and strike. They have a mind and they try to analyze the situation and think of a way to fight. But the best fighters, they just go in the moment without thought, moving instantly, and that's way more effective because, well, if you were fighting Musashi, while you were thinking how to strike him, he already struck you because he wasn't thinking. He wasn't like think, strike, he was just strike instantly. Out of just being one with the moment, with the movement of the battle. he could hit you before you even saw him move from any angle because he had no definite sword style. So that's the same with no self. You still exist, just you're not locked into being someone, becoming someone, being a certain way, but you're just like water that flows around rocks in the river. Like the river just flows, some obstacle comes, you flow perfectly around it. You adapt to the moment, to the movement of the situation. You become like a force of nature that you actually are. So you're still happening. Something's making you go. Something's thinking. Something's happening, right? It's just not a self. That doesn't mean it's not happening. That doesn't mean it's nothing. Yeah, you're empty of a self, but you're full of this being, this energy, this force, this movement. Like my hand's moving. What's moving it? I'm not choosing to move it in this way. It's just happening. So fascinating to see this. Like birds are just chirping. The wind is just blowing. I'm just thinking sometimes. I'm playing Beyblade, just watching anime, just happening. Like I'm playing music and just that music arose that time because of thought. I want to hear that arose. You're part of the whole movement, man. It's beautiful. You're part of everything. Just another gust of wind in this thing we call existence. We don't know what it's about. And you don't have to define yourself. And when you let go of yourself, you're definitely... Ooh, is there a squirrel? Oh, I see a squirrel. How cute. But when you let go of these definitions of yourself, you don't disappear. There's less lightness. You don't take it so seriously. Someone calls you stupid. Who did they call stupid? It's just sounds. You're just there. You may have a thought, I don't like that, but you see it's just a thought. It's not my thought. You don't have to take action for every thought. There's no burden from existence. You don't have to fulfill every dream that arises. You can. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying loosen up, lighten up, and just don't take it so seriously. Notice no self. I can't explain perfectly why. And don't, at the end of the day, no self is just an idea. Even the Buddha was like, it's not really no self. No self is just a useful tool, a useful idea to see that there's no one really doing you. Doesn't mean sometimes you don't assume like a temporary self, or there isn't like a conventional use for having a name and other people knowing you a certain way. That's part of the whole movement. That's part of the no self is the self. It's pretty funny. But yeah, don't let it bind you. Loosen up. Just relax. Look how chill everything is. Like it's just it's the best. Like it's fucking awesome. So you don't gotta be anything. Isn't being something kind of tiring? You always gotta maintain. I'm this. I gotta maintain this image. I gotta do that. I gotta achieve that. I'm not saying be lazy, be a nobody, be weak. It's not weakness. It's complete adaptability, flexibility. It's the strongest position. It's no position. Not being anything means just like the Musashi sword style. If not anyone, you're everything that you gotta be when the moment calls for it. It's awesome. So yeah, I hope I could like point someone to no self. I hope I could clear up any confusion that this is non-existent or this is somehow negative, the no self teaching. And I gotta get a good angle for the thumbnail because I've been having boring ass thumbnails. This one's pretty funny. I don't know. I don't know what the pose. I'm silly. I'm not some serious guy. But the egghead. But I gotta strike a cool pose. One of these is gonna be a thumbnail and you're gonna see it. Now I gotta one-handed sheathe my sword. Is this possible? I just gotta do it like this. Fuck it. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a like, leave a comment. I wanna talk to anyone. If you're new here and you wanna see more content like this where we're just talking and chilling, subscribe. I'd love to have you around. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you around.